at the end of time.
O'clock.
Hey everybody, what's going on? It's Wednesday again already. Life is just passing by.
Yep.
That's the spirit, isn't it?
It's all good.
It's all right. It's all right. It does seem like we were just here though doing another.
What's that?
It does seem like we were just here doing the show last. I know we were just here on Monday, but I meant like doing the show last time.
Kind of busy.
Yeah, well, you know that's what happens. You just get kind of busy, and
I got to wrap gifts tomorrow.
I kind of need to too. I looked in my closet today, and I actually do have some Christmas paper left over from last year. I don't know because I have a couple of big presents, so I'm not really sure. I might have to go to Dollar Store and get some more.
That Temu order is coming tomorrow.
Oh, good.
Yeah, but I don't think I'll wrap it. I think I'll just give it to you.
No, wrap it.
Wrap it.
Gotta make it all special.
Well, I told you. I showed you what it was.
I forgot though already.
'Cause I didn't think it'd be here in time.
I forgot already. I mean, I kind of remember, but not really exactly.
Yeah, I don't buy anything unless I say, that look good? Yeah, I thought you'd like that, just shit like that.
And I mean, even though, like, we're so boring because, Tom likes very practical gifts, so I'm just like, tell me what you need anything. 'Cause it's like,
I'll ask for socks and shit.
Yeah, but like, so some of the stuff I got, but I did get you one thing that I just thought was cool that I thought you might like.
And then we got each other the same gift.
Yeah.
We bought each other a red microwave.
A microwave.
I paid half and she paid half, so we went in on it. That's a gift.
And I'm going to wrap it, and then I'm going to go to Tom and Jenny from Tom and Jenny. From Santa Claus.
It's for the office up here.
Yeah, because we have a toaster and a fridge and a little bar.
2 ice machines.
And 2 ice machines, but we don't have a microwave up here.
Yeah, we don't have a microwave.
So we thought we'd get so it's a cool little red retro.
That way she just step out of her office and heat something up.
Heat shit up and everything like that. But yeah, it's over there. I already got it, but I haven't wrapped it yet. So like I said, I got like a couple big things and I got like the cat's gifts and everything too. Speaking of which, the main show next week is going to be on Christmas Day.
Yeah.
So I'm telling you right now that I'm not putting up a poll for that because I did not want to have to do like research for, on Christmas Day and Christmas Eve and shit like that. So we'll probably we're going to do a show on Christmas Day, but it'll be just like a sidetracks, like a Christmas special. So we'll just hang out and talk about Christmas shit or whatever like that because I was just trying to give myself a little bit of a break. I still want to do the show though, but I didn't want to necessarily have to do like research and shit. So I put up an announcement. It'll go up on Friday, like when the poll would normally go up. But I was thinking I was gonna put a poll up, and then I was like, you know what? Never mind. I didn't want to. I like doing the research, but it is kind of time consuming.
In the comment section, last week's show, somebody was like, "Man, you guys, this is not a I gave you guys a chance. This is not a well put together documentary on this fucking case." People jumped on him. You guys jumped on him. Says, "Hey man, this is just hangout stuff." You know what I mean? Like if you want the case, go watch a documentary or just go look at your Wikipedia.
Yeah, we're just using the topic. We talk about the topic, but we're
y'all
just
explained
using
it good.
That
You said it's stream of consciousness and fucking around and.
I got notes and shit, and like I said, I do several days of research for this stuff, but
it's gonna take time.
Yeah,
because this show was designed to be a time suck.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Some people are working or they're driving. Or trying to go to sleep.
Speaking of time suck,
they need a long video.
Speaking of time suck, which is one of my favorite podcasts.
Yeah.
He kind of does the same thing. Like, he has notes where he talks about, and he's done a lot of the same cases that we have, but sometimes he'll go off on tangents where he makes up these crazy commercials and all this other kind of stuff, and he's, like, funny as shit. Because he's a comedian.
When you're doing this show, that's what, and if you're an interesting person, and you're having fun with the audience, you're going to evolve into that direction.
Yeah.
You're making comments and fucking getting sidetracked, and then I'll say, fuck it, we got to go back.
Sometimes he'll do the shows, like, on... various substances.
Okay. Oh, he'll be
drugs.
Loaded, huh? Yeah.
On various drugs.
Was he ever done it on acid?
Yes.
Yeah. That'd be good.
A couple times.
Yeah.
And it's like super funny. Like once, I can't remember what episode it was, but one of the ones that he did, the only time like he had to stop because he couldn't read his notes anymore because everything was like breathing.
Blurring and breathing and moving.
It was just like he had to come back and do the rest of it later.
Yeah, if you've never done that
was so
particular
funny.
one, you can't really relate to it. Once you've done it, you go, oh, I know what he's talking about.
Yeah. It's like super funny.
Puts you in a certain mindset.
And honestly, his show about who's that serial killer that stuck pins in his taint?
Oh, fucking Fish.
Albert Fish.
Albert
His
Fish.
show about Albert Fish was one of the funniest fucking things
Yeah.
that I have ever heard. Like all of the fake commercials he came up with and like all the interstitials. Oh my god, it was so fucking funny.
So we're fucking plugging
Cummins
Time
is-
Suck.
Dan Cummins is
We
name.
plug Wang too. WHANG
Yeah.
exclamation point. Great show.
Because this is the shit that we watch.
That's what we watch.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Other YouTube people.
Yeah, and one of our listeners, DJ Maniac up in New York, knows Wang. He sees him at the club, takes pictures of him. Hey, look who's here today. You know, fucking shit like that.
Yeah.
You haven't heard from Maniac in a while.
Yeah, I haven't seen him around. I'd say he's still on the page. Like I see him commenting on stuff, but
Yeah.
we got a new member. So welcome to Flashbulbs.
Okay.
Elysian, yeah,
Elysian? Okay.
That's a YouTube membership.
Okay, great.
I'm part of the family official. It says-
I think it's the first time I've seen that name.
no, they've been here before.
Been here before?
Said
Okay.
y'all's documentaries are fucking amazing. Well, thank you.
Thank
I don't consider them documentaries. I just kind of consider them. I mean, you can call them that if you want, but
They're shows.
yeah, we
It's
just do a
entertainment.
show, and like I said, we
Yeah.
just kind of bounce off.
Yeah,
Fucking,
yeah, and y'all get it, fucking, because people say some sideways shit. You all come in and fucking defend the show. Thank you very much.
yeah,
Thank you very much.
yeah, we do appreciate it.
Yeah,
like
I mean,
said.
We're not serious. We are serious about some things. Other
We
things
do
we're
serious topics.
yeah. Some
but-
we're serious sometimes about certain things, but a lot of times we're just trying to entertain y'all. We're fucking around.
And to be honest, we both have
Yeah.
kind of dark senses of humor.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that kind of we
Yeah.
can't help ourselves.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's kind
Yeah,
of messed up.
we're kind of a lot alike in a way.
Yeah.
In some ways we're real alike, in other ways we're not. But it doesn't
Yeah.
matter. You don't want to be in a relationship with a clone of yourself.
Yeah, that would be weird.
If there was a female clone of me, man, I'd never trust her.
Are you saying that I can't trust you?
No, you trusting me helps me be good.
Really?
But if there were two, because I don't want to disappoint you.
Aw,
But if there were
I like how you
if there
put
were
that.
two of us fucking corrupt, evil motherfuckers with fucking dark urges and
that
shit,
would be a bad situation.
yeah, we
I
wouldn't
can
trust
see
each
that.
other. Yeah,
I could see that.
yeah,
Yeah, I think you've told me that before. You're like,
Yeah.
if that was just like, if there was a female version of me, it's just like, oh my
Yeah.
god, we would kill each other.
and being a professional soldier, the only equivalent female is a hooker or a porn star, or somebody that sells their body.
Yeah,
So I don't want to go out with that. You know what I mean?
true.
Not studio porn star, at least.
But seriously, that's really nice what you said that you don't want to disappoint me. So that's what makes you be better.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Well, you didn't know?
no, I didn't know.
Oh yeah, no, because
I mean, I never heard you like say it that. I
Yeah.
figured that, but I never heard you like articulate it or say
Yeah.
it out like that.
yeah, I
That's
don't want to
kinda-
let you down.
That's kind of nice. You don't. You never do.
Yeah.
You're a cool dude.
Thank you. I'm fucking hot too. I gotta
What,
turn
you
the fan.
you
on.
are hot.
No, I gotta turn the fan. on.
I know you've been. I was just fucking. So yeah, I've been wanting to do a show about the Menendez brothers for a while, and this is kind of fortuitous because these two are back in the news kind of recently because Netflix did a documentary which I watched last night. CB said that they watched it as well. And there's also that series, I think it was 9 episodes, called Monsters. They did one on Jeffrey Dahmer too, which is like fictionalized. But from what I didn't watch the whole series, but like from what I could understand from other videos, like breaking it down, that it was pretty accurate. There was some stuff in there that was exaggerated, but they tried to keep it like pretty close to the facts. And I watched like the court TV documentaries about them and stuff like that. But the thing about it is that because of they were both, spoiler alert, they were both sentenced to life in prison. However, because of some new evidence that has come to light, which we'll get into later, they're considering, I'm not sure if they're going to actually do a retrial or a resentencing, or if they're just considering it, because they were supposed to do it last week, but then it got pushed to, I think, the end of January. And I think what they're going to try and do is do a resentencing. I'm imagining, I was listening to like a lawyer who did a video about it, and he was kind of talking about what might happen. And he said what he's suspecting is that they're going to try and get the sentence knocked down from murder 1 to manslaughter, and then do time served, and then let them out. So he's like, I don't know if that's what's going to happen, but he's like, but I'm
They're
imagining...
never gonna get manslaughter.
Yeah, well, see, that's the thing. Is
That's
that...
murder. That was murder. What happened?
Yeah, and I'm going to say it's kind of interesting because I was watching something else about this, and they said that there's been a lot of, especially like younger people that weren't alive when this trial happened, because the murder happened in 1989. The trial was in the 90s. And they're like younger people that weren't alive somehow, because Court TV started streaming it and because of the Netflix series and stuff like that, a lot of younger people, particularly on TikTok, are kind of like more sympathetic toward them. They know that they killed their parents. I mean, obviously everybody knows they did that. They even admitted it. But they're more willing to give them the benefit of the doubt because of the abuse allegations against their dad. And so there are kind of like petitions going around to let them out or whatever, because I think they've been in there for 35 years or something like that.
Well,
for a while.
First of all, I don't buy the abuse charges, but
I'm not okay. So I'm not really sure.
Even if that were true, you're not judge, jury, and executioner. There's a channels you go through. If you have that kind of gripe, they should have gone to a lawyer, said this, and fucking filed charges against him, and gone through a whole trial, and then they'd get his shit eventually anyway, if that was true.
I kind of feel like I would be more inclined to be a little more sympathetic had they just killed their dad.
No, they killed the mom, too.
And not the mom, too. Because, and like I said, if you don't know the details of the case, we'll get into it. But it's just like the fact that they did that as well kind of makes me not... And there's other stuff about them that kind of makes me feel like...
They were psychopaths. They wanted all that money. They wanted the money in his dad's little empire type deal.
I'm not saying, though, that their dad wasn't kind of a piece of shit. Because... honestly, even like the prosecuting attorney and all the other people that were on this documentary, even they said we could not find a single person that would say anything good about him, about the dad that got killed. They said so he was a piece of work, and everybody kind of hated him. So I don't know. I can kind of see where they were going with it, but I'm not sure where I fall on it. I kind of feel like I don't know. I don't know if they completely made it up, or
I think they mostly made it
or
up.
what. But I'm not sure. Like I said, I wasn't there.
It still doesn't matter. In most states here in the United States, murder, first degree, is a premeditated, pre-planned, intentional killing of a human being. They did 2 counts of that. That's one of the most serious offenses. You can face the death penalty for that. Usually it ends up in life in prison. Most states don't have this. Well, we'll give you 10 years for first-degree murder. No, usually it's life. Usually there's a mandatory life. Some states say 25 years to life, and they never paroled them, so they're in there for life. Manslaughter is the accidental killing of a human being. In some ways, it's an accidental killing of a human being, that kind of like maybe through negligence, maybe. Sometimes that's also negligent homicide. Other times it's like manslaughter is killing of a human being with sufficient provocation to provoke the average person to do it. And, in a lot of states, manslaughter is probatable. You don't even have to go to prison for that. But you almost never get fucking probation for that. Usually you're going to get 10 years, at least. And if the judge thought it was murder, he can give you like the maximum. The maximums are like 50 years, 40 years, 60 years, depending on the state. So it's all bad. You don't want to be charged with any of them.
I mean, try not to kill people.
Right, but...
is the pro tip there.
Yeah, but...
if you can avoid
manslaughter usually hinges on provocation, that the person provoked you, and it provoked you bad enough that the average person would have lost calm reasoning and cool reflection. Yeah, and that's not what happened here.
Yeah, I kind of feel like what they were trying to argue, what the defense was trying to argue, was that, what did they call it? Did they call it imperfect manslaughter or something like that? It was imperfect something or other, where they were saying that if the person believed that they were in imminent danger, or whatever it was.
If you're in imminent danger, almost every state in our union says you have the right to self-defense.
Well, that's why this was imperfect, whatever it was. Because this was like a different nuance.
If you're in immediate danger of great bodily harm, or you're afraid you're going to have, great bodily harm inflicted on you, or death, or someone else, because you can kill in defense of others too, you'll get what's called justifiable homicide, which is not guilty. You walk. Okay?
Yeah.
because that's your right here. Manslaughter, though, cannot be premeditated. So that's why it can't be a manslaughter. They admitted to planning this shit out. So there's no way it can be manslaughter. Manslaughter was always like in the heat of the action, in the heat of the moment, someone, pissed you off in some way or another. Okay, for instance, like you're carrying a gun. Maybe you're carrying a gun legally. You walk in on your wife and she's fucking the hell out of 6 or 7 dudes in there. And you fucking lose it. Yeah. 6 or 7. You fucking lose it. And you just start open firing into the fucking crowd and kill a couple of them. You didn't plan that, Now, let's say you saw it and you didn't have the gun.
And then
you said, fuck it, I'm going to go out to the car and get my shit.
Yeah.
And come back. Then all of a sudden it becomes premeditation.
Yeah, because you had to go do something.
You should have had. Back. most juries are going to well, he should have calmed down, and by that, in that amount of time it took him to go down there, No, these dudes premeditated that, so that makes it first degree murder.
Yeah, I'm kind of erring on the side of, I'm not saying, like I said, that their dad wasn't, allegedly a piece of shit, because a lot of people said he was. I'm not even saying that he allegedly wasn't sexually abusive, because there was actually a something that came out later, not from either of them, but from somebody else, which I'll get into later, that said he did some shit to them when he was a teenager. But, so I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying that what they did, I kind of feel like at the time they did it, I think they had a different motive, and then used the abuse motive later on. Yeah.
Phantom's saying that they were kids when they did it, which they weren't really. They were.
No, one was 19 and one was 21.
Yeah. So they were legal age.
I mean, they're kind of kids, from our point of view, but that's an adult. Yeah. That's still legally an adult.
And in most states...
Yeah, Erik was 18 or 19.
In most states, first or second degree murder is life.
Yeah.
So there is no concept of, well, they've done enough time. Not for 2 counts of murder. One of them being their mom. Fuck no. They're never going to get out on 2 counts. That was 2 counts for each dude.
CB said it was said in the Netflix documentary, which actually, yeah, I just watched that one last night. The brothers got fucked over by the justice system because O.J. Simpson got away with murdering 2 people and had no intention of letting it happen again. Yeah, they kind of went into that, and some of the people that worked on the Menendez case thought that too, that it's the defense felt like the second trial, they kind of got fucked over because the judge was mad, not only that the OJ had gotten acquitted, but also that the first trial of the 2, well, it was actually 2 trials because they were both tried separately, kind of, but at the same time, because they were both hung juries, and so they were mad they didn't get a conviction. So there was a lot of stuff going on before the second trial. That's grasping
for straws, though. They're just being desperate. Okay, they in O.J. Simpson's case, he pled not guilty. He said he didn't do that.
Yeah, okay. He totally did.
In this case, they admitted to fucking second degree murder, to first degree murder, 2 counts of it. They're never going to get out of there. No.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see. Honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if they got out, but I don't know. Should they get out? Probably not.
What state was it? California?
California.
I think it's life in California.
Yeah, they got life.
Yeah.
Life without parole.
Yeah.
But like I said, they're having I think it's a resentencing hearing or a retrial or something because of some new evidence that came out. And I think it's at the end of January, this coming January. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But
they have a very slim chance, very, very slim chance of fucking getting out of that.
It was funny because in that documentary, one of the funniest women in there was the prosecuting attorney who worked on the first 2 the trials. And she was not having it. She just thought, and she was the one that said, yeah, look, their dad was a piece of shit. Okay, notice we couldn't find a single character witness. We couldn't find a single person that would say anything nice about him. Yeah. So there was that. But, I mean, she basically came right out and said, yeah, these 2 dudes are full of shit. I don't believe any of it. And
they killed the mom.
Yeah, that's, like I said, had they just killed the dad,
That's enough.
It might have been a little more believable.
Yeah.
And the way that they killed the mom, how it happened.
Yeah.
I'm kind of meh.
Those dudes aren't going anywhere.
I don't know about that, man. But yeah. So, okay, so I'll get into, let's see. Yeah, Dwayne Smith said, no, that molestation BS was an excuse for two grown-ass men to kill mommy and daddy for their money.
That's
Keep their asses locked up. I kind of suspect that as well. Like I said, and if it kind of sucks too, because they went into this on the documentary a little bit, that, you know, nowadays people are maybe perhaps more inclined to be slightly more sympathetic toward them, because back when this happened, you know, there wasn't really a lot of dialogue around child sexual abuse, you know, targeted toward boys as much as there is now. Like, there's not as much, you know, discussion or understanding about it as there is nowadays. And maybe people thought it was weird, or they, you know, hadn't really heard about it much or anything like that. So I get that. But by the same token, if these two jokers did just kill their parents for the money and then lied about sexual abuse, they are not only, you know, just trying to get away with their shit, but they're also fucking over everybody who that really happened to, and now nobody's gonna believe them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that just, like, makes me mad.
This whole thing was a shit plan anyway. You know what I mean? Any kind of plan that involves bodies at your house and you being linked to them, that's a shit plan. It's just, you know, they were gonna get caught no matter what. They didn't know what the fuck they were doing.
The weird thing too is that they really didn't seem like they kind of knew they were going to get caught.
Yeah.
It seemed like they didn't try that hard to not get caught.
They would have had a much better chance of getting away with it had it been a missing persons case. They never did find out what happened to them. But there has to be a plausible reason. But you know what I mean? They're family members. So you think the motherfuckers could have made a plan. Like when they go off fucking that fishing trip, they're going to get lost on that fishing trip. You know, just some shit like that, you know?
Although, see, that wouldn't be perfect, though, because if they wanted the money, then if they're just missing and there's no bodies, then it takes a really long time, like, for them to be declared dead. What is it, 7 years?
That's not that long, though.
Something like that. But they wanted the money, like, immediately, I'm sure.
Well, then what you do is you have to have some kind of an accident at a remote location, and you're not even there. What's that?
We're going to make it look like an accident.
Yeah, it's an accident.
We're giving people tips, man. You get all kind of good information on this show.
Steal a vehicle and just fucking ram right in it. Bam! Wear a bunch of fucking motorcycle gear so you can survive the impact, run out and have somebody pick you up. Fucking leave the car there and everything.
I always thought it was
like that.
I always thought it was good to kind of maybe go old school and like just push somebody off a cliff or out a window or down some stairs or something like that. Something that could plausibly look like an accident. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They used to do that back in the old mysteries all the time.
Yeah.
Oops, fell
they
down
didn't
the
have
stairs.
cameras back then.
That's true.
They couldn't keep track of who was coming in and out.
It's like they must have just fallen down the stairs. I don't know what happened. You know what I mean? So it's real slippery there, I guess. So, you know, I don't know. But yeah,
they just banged them up with a whole bunch of fucking morphine and say they were junkies.
I mean, there's lots of options.
Yeah.
There's lots of options.
We found them like this.
We're terrible.
Yeah.
But we're just saying that it's, I mean, these two, they were wealthy, you know, white kids. Well, half white, I guess. And,
they were white.
Well, their dad is Cuban.
They're white.
So that's still,
that's Hispanics.
That's still pretty white.
They're white, yeah.
But yeah, so they were very, very privileged, and I don't think they were master criminals.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
Like I said, the weird thing to me is that they didn't really, like I said, as we get into the details of it, they didn't really, I don't know if they really thought it through. Like, they kind of half-assedly were like, yeah, let's do this so we don't get caught, but they didn't really seem to care if they got caught or weren't all that worried about it.
Impulsive and kind of
Maybe.
dumb. Inexperienced. They thought that, I guess they just thought they'd get away with it on their good looks. Oh, they'll never accuse us.
Yeah, maybe they were just used to getting away with shit. I don't know.
Yeah, probably spoiled.
CB said, my English teacher faked his death for the money and got caught and did 5 years in prison for it.
Yeah.
That's hardcore.
Yeah.
Faking your own death. That takes commitment. I'm almost kind of like, if they do a good job with it and they don't hurt anybody, I'm kind of like, let them have it. You know what I mean? It's all right.
Yeah.
You're going to go through all that trouble.
The insurance company wants their money.
Well, don't they always?
It's like
stealing.
stealing.
But they're a bunch of grasping fucking harpies.
Yeah.
They can.
Those guys are crooks.
They have
anyway.
like way more fucking money than any of us will ever see in our entire lifetime.
Yeah.
So I don't feel bad for them. I'm sorry.
Yeah, insurance in the U.S. they're crooks.
I don't
like
feel
credit
bad.
card companies.
I don't
They're
feel bad
crooks
for them
too.
at all.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh no, we're so poor. These people have to pay their bills. And so I'm like, fuck you. You got billions of dollars. the hell out of my face with that. But yeah, so, all right, so let's get talking about this case, like I said. So, if you were not alive when this happened, this murder actually happened in 1989. And the trials were in the early 1990s. But let's kind of go into a little bit of a background here. So, the dad, José Menendez, as I mentioned earlier, was actually born in Cuba. And he was born into actually a quite wealthy family.
You get some more ice.
Okay. But his family pretty much lost everything, like lost all their money in the Cuban Revolution. And they came to the United States as refugees, I believe in the 1950s. Now, Jose, by all accounts, like I said, he was a very driven person. And when he came to the United States, he got in, he went to college and got a scholarship, actually, like for swimming, because he was a really good swimmer. And when he was in college, he met a woman from, I believe she was from the Midwest, and her name was Mary Louise Anderson, better known as Kitty. So she was kind of a, beauty queen type of person or whatever. A couple years older than he was, but, no big age difference. So they actually got married in the 1960s, early 1960s, and then moved to New York City. And then Jose got his accounting degree, and basically he started out as like a dishwasher, and over the years worked his way up to very, very high up positions and eventually became a millionaire. Like, he worked for Hertz, the car rental company, for a long time, and then basically made his way to like the top of that. And then he moved to RCA Records and was like the head of RCA Records, like in the 1980s. So they signed like Hall & Oates, Duran Duran, the Eurythmics, Menudo, whom we'll get into that a little bit later. But yeah, so he was instrumental in doing all that kind of stuff. So he was like a big deal, you know what I mean? So they had the two sons, Lyle and Erik. Lyle's a little bit older. He's 2 or 3 years older, and Erik is a little bit younger. So they were living from New York City, and then they moved to Princeton, New Jersey. And then they moved out to Los Angeles, like when Jose got like, the big high up jobs at RCA and whatever. That was actually when I think he was going to work for like a movie company. I think it's called Live Entertainment. Like, it was a big like movie studio or something. So he went out there to work there. So like I said, they had a big mansion and all this other kind of stuff. Very, very wealthy family. And the house where they lived, I think Elton John had lived there at some point. I think Prince lived there at some point. So it's like it's a beautiful house. Like, you can see it online, So the boys seem to have pretty much every privilege, obviously, because, their parents were fucking rich, right? Lyle they both played tennis, actually, because that's what rich kids do. And he actually he said later, and like I said, I don't know how much of what he says you can, take as truth or whatever, but he was always kind of like, he kind of hated his father, but he also really kind of admired his dad and also wanted to be like him. And a lot of their relatives and stuff said that Lyle was very much like their father. Like, he was very driven, almost like obsessive and kind of arrogant, you know what I mean? So he was actually going to go into business. Now, Erik, the younger one, he was actually way better at tennis. He was not a great student, just kind of average or whatever, but he was like really good at tennis, and his dad like really pushed him at that. So, your typical sports parent type shit. And so Erik ended up being like pretty high up, like in the national tennis bracket. I don't know how the fuck that works, but you know what I mean. He was like a good like national tennis player. So the thing about Jose, like I said, he was kind of like your typical nothing the kids did. And this wasn't just, Lyle and Erik saying this. This was, other extended family members saying that really nothing the kids did was like good enough. He was always like pushing them to do better and do it. And he was always like criticizing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like pushing them to do better. And so, that kind of fucked him up a little bit, I guess. Like I said, not that it's an excuse. So, some people said he was very...
Parent.
Yeah, they said he was just real overbearing, and he wasn't, he's like no affection or anything like that. He's just like, not good enough, not good enough. It was just always kind of that kind of shit. So, in the late 1980s, probably because... I don't know if this is because of their upbringing or because they were wealthy and they were bored, or I don't really know what it was. But Lyle and Erik, who were very close, by all accounts, they decided, just for shits and giggles, I suppose, that they were gonna start robbing houses, like in their neighborhood, as you do. So they would break into people's houses and steal jewelry and cash and shit like that. So they stole, like, quite a lot, you know what I mean? And like I said, I think they just did it for, like, fucking...
You're a sociopath.
Fun, you know what I mean? Like, or for entertainment. Like, I kind of feel like maybe, like, a lot of rich kids kind of do that kind of crap.
Yeah, they do.
Because they...
I grew up with some.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Because I guess one, they're bored, and two, they think they can just get away with it.
They can get away with anything, yeah.
And, like, nothing will happen.
And then they want to fucking, like, pretend like... that they're down with the streets and they fucking the hard life and all that kind of shit. We're gonna have to fucking pull this heist off, Yeah, and then you go to fucking get arrested. You go to jail. You cry like a bitch. For your daddy to get you out of that shit.
Yeah, I imagine that happens.
It's that kind of shit.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah,
I didn't know what I was doing.
They want to seem like they're hard. You know what I mean? Because they've had like
they're hard
this
and
life
gritty.
of luxury.
Yeah, they're listening to Bob Marley and they understand the black struggle and shit. $7,000 stereo. Yeah,
right.
Fucking assholes.
And everyone else is just looking at them going, "Oh my
Yeah.
god, please."
Yeah.
It's that.
There was a lot of those in Brazil. Fucking at the school.
I knew a
high
couple.
school
I knew
went
a
to.
couple kids like that
Yeah,
too.
fucking filthy rich, and they're fucking stupid. They're like that.
Well, they have no idea. I mean,
They have no idea. They're kids.
It's not. Yeah, and the thing about it is like it's not a kid's fault. Like what environment they're born into.
Yeah.
But I kind of feel like with that kind of thing, there's really no excuse to not. I mean, you have the access to like the best education and all this other kind of stuff, so it's like you really should have your shit together better than somebody that was just born into crushing poverty.
3 or 4 of them were coked out by the time they graduated too.
Oh, I'm sure.
Because they could afford it.
Yeah. Yeah, because holy crap, like when could regular people couldn't afford coke in the 80s? Jesus Christ.
Rich kids back in the 80s could afford coke.
Why do you think everybody glommed onto crack so hard? Because it was fucking cheap. You know what I mean?
Rich people in the
coke
80s
was expensive.
Rich people in the 80s didn't even realize that coke was addictive. And it kind of wasn't illegal throughout the 70s. And even in the 80s when they made crack illegal, they made coke was illegal, but the penalties for it were like just a slap on the wrist. Because that was only rich people.
Yeah, it was like the rich people.
Yeah. The politicians were snorting that shit.
Yeah. They probably still do. I don't know how much coke is nowadays.
There's probably better shit out there that we don't even know about.
They
They found shit on Epstein's Island that were fucking kind of like drug analogs that were legal because they weren't quite the drug. And one of the ones that they said they had big 50-gallon drums, cardboard drums of a white powder you could snort, and it felt just like cocaine. But if you snorted too much of it, all of a sudden you become nauseated by it. So to keep you from getting addicted. So it was like a designer, safer version of cocaine. And evidently they didn't fucking... Epstein was making it in his lab. He had some drug laboratories, and he'd make it. And they weren't even selling it. They were just giving it away to their friends. It never ended up on the street, evidently. Some wild shit, huh?
Murder Hornet said that cocaine is $30 a gram where he is.
Yeah. Okay. That's a lot.
It is kind of a lot.
Still kind of a lot, yeah.
It is kind of a lot. I think it's cheaper than it used to be. But
yeah, that's why meth beat it out.
That's still
it's a lot cheap, and it lasts a lot longer.
I'm sure.
I wouldn't do it though. Bust your fucks your teeth up.
I don't really know why.
I could detect a fucking meth user from fucking 20 feet. That fucking breath. Damn.
Yeah, meth breath.
No.
It's a thing. But yeah, so like I said, I guess because they grew up entitled or whatever, and perhaps they had some problems at home, clearly. So they're doing this kind of stuff. They didn't get any jail time though, because of course, they're rich white kids. So they did actually. I think at least Erik did. I'm not really sure if Lyle did as well. I think it was mostly just Erik, but he ended up going to therapy with good old Dr. Jerome Oziel, who will figure into things later on. So that was his therapist. Now, one interesting thing is that in high school, Erik and a friend of his, they wrote a screenplay, and it was called Friends. I believe it was 66 pages long. And the story in this was about a rich kid who killed his parents for the inheritance money in what was termed the perfect murder. This doesn't prove anything, obviously, but it is a little sus that he was already thinking about that. You know what I mean? Like, only a year or two before the murders, that he wrote a screenplay about that. I'm just saying. They did actually introduce that in his trial, like, later on. Now, Lyle actually got into Princeton. Actually, he applied to Princeton first, and he didn't get in. And then his dad got on his case about it, so I guess he applied again, and he did get in the second time. However, when he was there, the kind of consensus was that he's not dumb, it's just he was kind of lazy, wouldn't really apply himself. And he actually got put on academic probation for plagiarism and for just general poor grades. He was also kind of a shithead. Like, he was like, he didn't want to have a roommate, and so he would, like, throw the roommate's shit out of the room, and he painted the room even though he wasn't supposed to, and he would do shit like that, like, just random shit like that, just being a brat, you know what I mean? So it was that kind of shit. So he eventually got kicked out. So right around mid to late August of 1989, Lyle and Erik start thinking about their plan to kill their parents. Now, so their story was, because I'll get into it more later, like when we get into what they were talking about at the trial, because nobody really knew this stuff until later on. What their story was that, you know, they had been abused. Lyle said he'd been sexually abused from the ages of 6 to 8 by his dad, and Erik had been abused from the ages of 6 to 18. So, like, you know, when he did the murder. And they had come to the conclusion, this is according to them, like, this is their words, or I'm paraphrasing what they said. They had come to the conclusion that their parents were going to kill them. There was an incident that happened, it was shortly before the murder, where they all went on a fishing trip, like out on a boat, and according to them, they said, oh, we thought our parents were going to kill us at that point, so we was like, oh shit, we better do something, you know what I mean? That was like one of the catalysts for it. But they had been, like, discussing this, right? So they go to a bunch of gun stores in Southern California, where they lived. Now, they ended up getting 2 Mossberg 12-gauge shotguns and some ammo in a store in San Diego, California. Now, to buy the guns, they actually used a stolen driver's license. It belonged to a friend of Lyle's. So, there's that too. So they were trying to make, like, some effort to cover their tracks, I guess. So, like, using a stolen driver's license to purchase the guns. So they decide August 20th of 1989 is when they are going to carry out this plan that they had, because it was planned. I mean, they knew they were going to do this. Although, like I said, later on they kind of said, oh, there was a confrontation that night and everything like that. Although I will say, I'm not a forensic scientist, I'm not a cop or anything like that, but just from the way that the crime scene photos looked, it doesn't look like there was a confrontation of any kind. That's all I'm going to say. So what happens? So evidently, according to the evidence, according to the police report or whatever, on August 20th, 1989, it's evening, José and Kitty are sitting in the living room on the couch, and they're watching TV. I believe they were watching a James Bond movie. I think it was The Spy Who Loved Me. And so they're like in the den, just sitting on the couch. Lyle and Erik come into the den with the shotguns and start shooting. Now, José, they shot 6 times. The fatal shot was actually to the back of his head. So they shot him in the back of his head. And the crime scene photos are pretty fucking gross. But they said, somebody on the documentary said too, they said that basically his head was almost blown off. Like, his whole skull was just completely... And what I heard, I don't know if this is true or not, but somebody on the documentary said that the dude's brain fell out while the authorities were there. Damn. Like, because the back of his head had been blown out.
Yeah.
And I guess it had just been kind of sliding. And I was like, ugh, that's horrible. So it's like, I don't know, but the guy said that, like, on the thing. So I was like, okay, I guess he would know. So they shot Jose 6 times, like I said, in the back. Now, they started shooting at the mom. She was shot 10 times altogether. But what happened to her was that the first few shots didn't kill her. So she, like, kind of came off the couch and she was, like, crawling and kind of screaming. And so they kept shooting. And then Lyle ran out of ammo. And then, so Erik had to go, or Lyle had to go to the car, and they had to get, like, more ammo, and then they had to reload and shoot her in the face. So, like you were saying earlier, that's kind of, had they just shot the dad, then maybe there might have been something, okay? But the fact that they shot the mom and she didn't die right away and was straight, like, freaking out and, like, crawling away, as you would, and then he had to go to the car and get more ammo and reload, that seems, yeah. You know what I mean? That detail is just kind of bothers me a lot. That he just, like, and then he just shot her in the face. So, yeah. So they just shot the hell out of their parents, right? Now, after they killed their parents, they stayed in the house. Now, there's a couple different, I've heard a couple different versions of this. Some versions of the story say they just stayed in the house the whole time. Like, that they waited a while, and then they called the cops. Other versions of the story said that, because they said that they waited in the house to see if any of the neighbors had heard the gunshots and would, like, come running or call the cops or whatever, right? But then some other versions of the story say that they actually left the house. Like, they disposed of their clothing that they were wearing, because it was all bloody, obviously, and that they got rid of the shotguns. Like, they buried them, like, up on Mulholland Drive. They also said that they went to a movie theater to buy tickets for Batman, as it happens.
The Tim Burton one?
Yeah, to try... Yeah, it was 89.
Yeah.
To try and establish an alibi. Like, hey, we were at the movies when it happened. But I guess because of the timestamp, they're like, oh, that's not going to work out or anything like that. And then there are also reports that they were at this, like, festival, the Taste of LA, which I guess was like a food festival, in Santa Monica. So I'm not sure if they actually did leave the house. Most sources I saw, like, said that they actually left the house and then came back to the house later. But some sources I saw said no, they stayed in the house the whole time. So I'm not really sure if that's...
Taste of L.A.
Yeah.
That sounds kinky. That's like the name of a blow bang or something. The blow bang video.
Yeah. Yeah, CB said yes, Jenny, his brain did fall out of the crime scene.
That's nasty.
Yeah, that's what I had never heard that detail before, and I heard that on the documentary, and I was like,
how did it detach from the brainstem?
Well, I guess because they fucking shot the hell out of him.
Through it, so the fucking
yeah.
Man.
And I guess it didn't come out right away, and then just like when everybody came in the crime scene, it just kind of glopped out onto the floor, which is like horrible.
Remember what kind of buckshot they shot him with?
I'm not real sure. It didn't say.
I don't think fucking double-aught buck, which is the one you use for self-defense, I don't think that would do that to a head. Not unless it was contact.
Yeah.
Not enough pellets, you know?
But they were all fucked up, like I said.
Yeah.
You can find the crime scene photos online, and they're pretty
Pretty
disgusting.
bad.
They're pretty fucking disgusting.
I'm good.
It was a bloodbath. There was blood everywhere. It was even on the fucking ceiling. You know what I mean? Everywhere.
Make a big ass mess out of the crime scene.
It did. Yeah, it was a huge mess. And so okay. So whether they left or not, if they did leave when they came home, and there were no cops there, the cops didn't show up. So Lyle calls 911, and basically and you can hear the 911 call. It's in pretty much every documentary about the case, of him just sobbing and crying, someone killed my parents, you know what I mean, like that. And like you can hear Erik kind of like screaming and freaking out in the background, you know what I mean. And it's like, and it's weird to like listen to it because you know they did it, right? So it's just like you're trying to be like, to me it seems like he's a little bit overdoing it, but I don't know. I mean, they bought it, so, but he's sobbing and shit. And so the cops show up, and so Lyle and Erik run outside the house when the cops show up. Now, when the cops showed up, and this is really dumb. And some people pointed this out on the documentary. They said, this is Beverly Hills police. They don't have a lot of murders. And these are all very wealthy people. So somebody said, they have really good customer service. You know what I mean? So it's like they're not going to immediately, even though you should, they're not going to immediately treat these two as suspects, even though you totally should. Because that's who did it. And normally, like any other place, they probably would. But they said when the cops showed up, they were super, super sweet to them. They were super nice to them. They absolutely did not even consider them suspects, it seems. They did not look on their hands for gunshot residue, which is dumb because it was all over them. They didn't look in their car, which was parked on the curb and had the shells in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They didn't even look in there. They didn't search anything. And they just really seemed really nice to him. Like, oh no, you poor kids. You know what I mean? Like, you came home and found your parents had been shot. Now, they pretty much told the officers from the beginning that they thought that this was, like, mob-related. Which is not crazy. That's not, like, a crazy thing for them to come up with. Because their dad, as far as I am aware, did have some mob ties. And, like I said, he was kind of an asshole. So, and a lot of people hated him. So, it wasn't insane to think that maybe somebody would have fucking shot his face off. You know what I mean? Because they're like, he was that kind of dude. So, it sounded believable, right? So, he's just like, yeah, it was mob shit. And everybody kind of bought that at first. So, yeah. So, the cops said this was just one of the most horrible things they'd ever seen. Like I said, there was just bits of brain and blood everywhere. It was just all over the place. It was awful. And so the thing about it is that they kind of look into the mob things. Because it sounded, like I said, plausible to them. Because the dad did have a lot of enemies. And, you know, as they said later at the trial, they really couldn't find anybody, either friends, relatives, whatever, that had a nice thing to say about him. They all thought he was a jerk. So, you know, like I said, it sounded kind of believable. However, they were so the cops were going with that angle because they're like, yeah, that sounds about right. So they're kind of looking into that. They're looking into all his connections and everything. They thought it was business related. But then Lyle and Erik started doing some shit that was a little bit suspicious. For several months after the murders, it took a little while for their dad's life insurance to kick in. For them to get it. But as soon as it did, boy, they were just off on a big old shopping spree. Their dad's estate, I believe, was worth about $14 million. The first life insurance policy that they got, I think he had more than one, but the one that they got first was, I think, $650,000 or $700,000, something like that. And as soon as that hit their bank accounts, holy crap, they were just out fucking everywhere. So, Lyle bought 3 Rolexes, a Porsche Carrera, a whole bunch of expensive clothes, and he bought a restaurant, like a hot wing place, like back in New Jersey, like where they had lived before. Erik bought a Jeep Wrangler, brand new Jeep Wrangler. He hired a tennis coach for $50,000 a year.
Damn, a $50,000 a year tennis coach.
Yeah,
God,
and that was
damn.
well. That's not a lot of money nowadays, but back then that was a lot.
That's
of money.
still a lot of money now. That's average salary.
Yeah,
I think.
But back then, I think it was above average.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he spent a lot of money too, and they didn't live in the mansion, but they rented. I think they rented or tried to buy like some condominiums that were like near there in Marina del Rey. So they also, I mean, they were living the high life, man. They were just going out to like fancy restaurants, and they went to London, they went to the Caribbean, like they took all these vacations, all this other kind of stuff. They went to like a New York Knicks basketball game, and which, you know, ringside, or not ringside, courtside seats, ringside seats. What the fuck am I talking about? I don't do sports. I don't know. So yes, they went to that. Oh, and there's a very famous the Mark Jackson trading card. The New York Knicks has them in the background of the picture that's on the trading card. So I think if you have that, like, it's really valuable. I'm not sure how much it goes for nowadays, But I remember, like, years ago, people were talking about how you could get a lot of money for that because it had the Menendez brothers in the background because they were in the audience. But yeah, so they spent pretty much the whole 650, 700 grand that they had got from the first life insurance policy. I think there was another life insurance policy that I think was for $15 million, but I think that one was held up for some reason. I'm not really sure if they were the beneficiaries or if there was some kind of other legal issue that they didn't get it, because I kind of feel like they spent all this money because they thought they were going to get that too, but they didn't end up getting it. But they spent like pretty much all the first one. So because of this very lavish spending behavior, which did not at all seem like the behavior of two young men whose parents were just blown away with shotguns, the cops were thinking, maybe those two had something to do with it, and started looking into them a little bit closer. So once that started to become apparent, like, everything starts coming out of the woodwork, right? So Erik had a friend in high school named Craig Signorelli. And he was the one that told the cops about the play that they'd written, like about the rich kid, like, bumping off his parents for the insurance money. And this same Craig guy also went to the police and said, Erik told me that he killed his parents. So what they did was they asked Craig, well, would you wear a wire and, when you go out with Erik or whatever? And he said he would. So they go out to lunch or whatever, and he just asked him point blank, hey, Erik, did you kill your parents? But Erik said that he didn't, like, he denied it. So they couldn't get it, like, when they had the wire on. And there was also, and this is another thing that makes me kind of suspicious that they just did it for the money, right? Was that a couple of people testified that Lyle went back to Princeton. There was something on the family computer that he wanted to destroy. He hired a computer expert to pretty much erase, like, some files. And what they think it was that Jose had made a new will where he didn't leave them anything or left them, significantly less. And he wanted to destroy that so no one would find it. You know what I mean? Because the guy, the computer expert, like, he testified later at the trial, and he said, well, can you overwrite this file or can you destroy this file so no one will ever find it? Because, if you just throw a file away, they can still recover it most of the time. But he wanted it to be gone so no one would ever find it. And they think it was, his dad's will. Now, what ended up happening was that Erik, apparently, he started going back again to his therapist, Dr. Oziel. And evidently, he couldn't live with the guilt anymore. And so he confessed to the murder to his therapist. Now, there's a whole thing with the therapist. Like, he testified at the trial, too. There's a little bit of some unethical bullshit going on because the therapist, Dr. Oziel, he was married, but he also had a mistress. And his mistress's name was Judalon Smythe. And what ended up happening was he asked his girlfriend to listen in on their sessions, like, and he was going to record them, which you're not really supposed to do that. That's kind of unethical, like, having somebody else, like, listen in on your shit. But, that's what they did. So he recorded a bunch of stuff, and he did record Erik confessing to it, and said, he asked why he had killed the mom, too. And he said just to put her out of her misery. And Lyle later confessed also, although Lyle was mad at first because Erik basically said, hey, I told Dr. Oziel I confessed to him. And he's like, why the fuck did you do that? Like, and he was going to disown him and all this other kind of shit. But then, like, eventually he's like, okay, well, yeah, I did it too. You know what I mean? So it was this whole thing. Now, so what ends up happening with that was that the therapist's girlfriend broke up with him, and apparently it was a pretty nasty breakup. And then she went and told the police that the Menendez brothers were the killers and that they had confessed and that she had tapes. So the cops go and arrest Lyle at the mansion in Beverly Hills. And then Erik was actually in Israel doing a tennis tournament. He was on a tennis tournament. And so he flew back to LA and turned himself in. So they held him without bail. They actually held them separately, which is normally what they would do in these kind of situations, so you can't, like, you know, figure your story out or whatever. Now, there was, like, a whole legal brouhaha, which took a couple of years, whether they were going to allow these therapist tapes with the confessions on them, because, like I said, that's kind of an unethical kind of... Usually you can't use that kind of shit. But, so there was a lot of legal wrangling and back and forth with that, lawsuits and whatnot. But eventually they said that 2 of the tapes, there were 3 of them, 2 of the tapes were admissible in court. Like, third one wasn't. And 2 of the tapes, one of the tapes that was allowed had Lyle admitting to the murder on it. So they said they were allowed to use that. So, yeah, High Desert said, wow, that's crazy unethical. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It's just like having your girlfriend like, hey, can you, like, eavesdrop on my client? It's like, can you fucking... I know what do they do? Like, he should have lost his fucking license, to be honest with you. That dude was like, whatever. So, after all of that was sorted out, they start the trials in 1993. Now, what they did was they kind of tried them at the same time, but they each had their own lawyer, and they each had their own jury. You know what I mean? Which is kind of a weird way of doing it, but whatever. I mean, normally they would do them together, but yeah. I don't know why they didn't.
That's weird.
Yeah, that's kind of the first one that I'm sure they've done it before, but that was the first time I'd ever heard of that.
That was, maybe they're trying to minimize damage in case maybe it'd be a situation where only one of them would go down.
Maybe so. Like, maybe they were trying to think, oh, maybe one of them was the instigator or the ringleader or whatever. Yeah, although it doesn't seem like that's the case. They both kind of seem like they were all in, you know what I mean? Even though it does seem like Erik was the one that cracked first and confessed because he couldn't take it, I guess. But like I said, they didn't really seem to be trying that hard not to get caught. So.
All this stuff about that they killed the mom to put her out of her misery because she couldn't live without the dad and all that shit, that's all bullshit. They wanted the money. Yeah, if she was alive, she'd get all the money.
Yeah.
That's what would happen.
Yeah, I mean, they had to get rid of...
They had to get rid of them both.
Right. That's kind of what I think.
Yeah, of course.
So yeah. Now, this was one... I think this was honestly the first major trial that was shown on court TV. Because court TV in 1993 was very, very new.
Yeah, some new shit, yeah.
And so this was like the first big deal. So, man, there were cameras in the courtroom, and this was on like fucking 24/7. It was a big deal. Like, it was on TV all the time. And it's like, not only was the whole trial shown on TV, but they would have, like, after the trial footage was over, then they would have, like, all the experts on there, like, talking about what they'd seen that day and, like, what are we going to see today in court and all this other kind of stuff. So, like I said, it was, like, 24/7 coverage, you know what I mean? Which was kind of a new thing. And a lot of it's funny because when you see, like, a lot of the, you know, the attorneys and stuff like that talking about it, it's like they fucking hated it. They were just like, it was a fucking circus, and the media is just in there, and there's cameras in your face, and people kind of act differently, like, when they know that it's being televised, and this was, like, a new thing, so no one was really used to it, and it was just a shit show. So there was that whole thing, too. So yeah. Now, so, it's funny to think now, because now it's just, like, so ubiquitous, but it's just funny to think about that it wasn't really that long ago that this was like a new phenomenon, you know? It's just crazy to think about. Because court TV, it seems like it's been around forever, but yeah, it was like pretty fucking new. So this had originally started out as, you know, just kind of a local LA kind of case. But of course, when it went on court TV, it just blew up. Like, not just nationally, all over the world. Like, everybody was talking about it. And it's because it kind of has everything you want from a story like this. It's a wealthy family that seems like the perfect family on the outside. You know, these privileged white boys, and it's just like blowing their parents away for insurance money, or so they said, and all this other kind of shit. And people just could not get enough of it. They were just like eating it up. Like I said, it was just all over the world too. Like, on the documentary, they showed like all these newspapers with like different languages and all this other kind of stuff. So it wasn't just us that was obsessed with it. It was everybody. So okay. So obviously the prosecution is coming at it from the angle of these two just wanted all the money. I mean, obviously, they tried to, you know, get rid of Jose's alleged will, that he had supposedly changed. They tried to do that. They bought the guns prior, like on purpose, was planned. They shot both of them, even though they didn't really have to, like according to what their story was. And they kind of tried to cover it up a little bit in a sort of half-assed kind of way. And they had spoken previously, because on one of the tapes from their therapist, they said that they had planned it. They used that word, planned. So, and I don't even think they kind of denied it, really.
That's like first-degree murder.
Like later on, but they were kind of trying to mitigate it by saying, oh, well, we thought that they were going to kill us, so we had to get them first.
Why didn't you go to the cops?
Kind of thing. Which, and the thing about it is that, because a lot of people said that, had the abuse allegations been true, which they may well be, I don't know, but it's just kind of like, had that been true, it's like you guys were grown. Yeah. You had cars. You could just leave.
Yep. Could have gone to the cops.
Yeah, or you could have reported it, and they were trying to argue that that they'd been groomed and that they were so downbeat or whatever, which does happen. There is something they used to call it battered woman syndrome. Now they just call it battered person syndrome, obviously, because it can happen to dudes too. But they were just trying to argue. It's like we thought that if we left, like our dad would find us and kill us and all this other kind of stuff. So that was the excuse they gave for like not leaving. But you know what I mean? They were just like, look, you guys had cars and could have left. If you were that upset about it.
It would be much easier if they had just gotten the dad. You could fucking get him alone and make an accident happen. But they didn't. They went for the mom, too. That tells you right there that the whole thing's bullshit. They're going for the money.
Now, Kitty Cat is here, and she's, I'm assuming, she's read the book that guy wrote. He was on I can't remember his name, but he wrote the book about it. Now, she's saying Jose seemed to control every aspect of the boy's life. They did say that. He even paid off Lyle's girlfriend to have an abortion and break up with him. The brothers have said the mom was abusive in her own right, locking Erik in a closet for hours. She also molested Lyle and harassed his girlfriends. At least one girlfriend testified she was. Yeah, like I said, they did try to... I don't know, it feels like they didn't... I didn't read the entire court transcripts, but they really seem to focus way more on the dad being abusive, but they did try to paint the mom as at the very least neglectful, also like a drug addict, and also those other kind of stuff, because Jose was had numerous affairs, and so they were kind of saying that the mom had kind of checked out and she was just like not having it.
They were probably assholes, but there's a tendency for a defendant to try to vilify the fucking victim and put it on them. That's what it sounds like.
I mean, that's kind of what they're...
The lawyers will help them. The defense lawyers will help them. You could hire people to help you.
Well, yeah, because the thing about it is that, look, they already confessed.
Yeah.
They know they murdered them. All they can do is try to mitigate it and give them an excuse. That's all they can do.
First-degree murder involves premeditation. There's no legal justification for it. It's not self-defense. That's it. It's murder.
Yeah.
So, sorry.
Well, that's the thing. It would have been different. Like I said, I think that people would have been more sympathetic had he just killed the dad.
Yeah.
Even then, I kind of feel like their story was there was a confrontation, but from the crime scene, it doesn't look like there was a confrontation. It looks like they just came in and shot them. Started shooting from the back.
It was an assassination. Yeah.
So...
An ambush.
So, like I said, you can't really justify...
No.
If the dude had been coming at them, then blow his fucking head off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But trying to argue...
Morality has nothing to do with it. It's about legality, what the laws say. And premeditated murder is not justifiable under any American law. It's not justifiable homicide.
Yeah, from a technical legal standpoint, this was first-degree murder.
Yeah, it's first-degree murder. So,
because they admitted to planning it.
The only justifiable homicides are in defense of oneself or of someone else. You can do that. And if that dude you killed is a fucking known fucking assailant with a criminal record, and fucking, he was in the middle of a fucking heist or fucking some bullshit like that, and you help some woman and you fucking killed a dude or whatever, you're not going to do any time, not in Florida.
Yeah, but that's, like I said, that's a different situation.
Yeah. Because that's justifiable.
Right.
You can defend other people here.
And I'm saying, too, that even in this case, even if their dad had been abusive, which he might have been.
Yeah.
In fact, he probably was. Everyone said he was a piece of shit. So it's not crazy to think that. But I'm just saying, from a legal standpoint, like you said, them just coming in and essentially assassinating them like that, that's first-degree murder.
Yep.
I mean, and they planned it. They didn't... It's not self-defense. You can't argue self-defense or that you thought you were in imminent danger, which is what that is.
It has to be imminent for self-defense
right.
or defense of others. In other words, it's right fucking now. That person's trying to kill somebody else. They're in the act of doing it. And you don't really have to fucking believe that they're going to kill the person either. Not in Florida and most of the southern states. You just have to believe that that person is going to do great bodily harm to that other person. And there's no clear definition of what great bodily harm is. If the dude fucking bearing down on her with maybe like a baseball bat, I'm going to say that that's great bodily harm.
Well, yeah.
If that dude's much bigger than that other person and they fucking have fucked him up pretty bad, you go, man, that motherfucker's going to kill that dude. That's great bodily harm. And great bodily harm might be, fucking going to the hospital. That's great bodily harm. Broken bones, something that could kill you, head injuries, shit like that. But that's American law. It's how it is.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and somebody is bringing up the guy from Menudo, which I'm going to get into like in a little bit because that kind of came out just like earlier. And like I said, I'm not... Both of the things could be true, is what I'm saying. I don't think it has to be like one or the other. Like, oh, they were either abused or... Wait, what was I going to say? Okay, so I'm not saying that just because they murdered the people, that doesn't mean that, like, I don't think the dad abused them. You know what I mean? Or the mom abused them. I'm saying that's entirely possible. Like I said, I wasn't there. Some other people did have evidence of that. So... But what I'm saying is that just from a legal standpoint, what they did was first-degree murder, regardless of what their reasoning for it was. And I get why they argued that, and in a lot of cases, I think that, people would be more sympathetic to it because you at least had a reason that people could relate to or were like, oh yeah, I'd probably do that too or whatever. But I'm just saying that from a legal standpoint, that what they did is first degree murder. So, and regardless of whether he abused them or not, which, like I said, he probably did. He probably did. So yeah. Now, as I mentioned, the prosecution were leaning very hard on all the stuff that said, all the probably spending they'd done, they're trying to get rid of the will, the fact that they'd written this play, the fact that that they had kind of talked about it and that they'd said to the therapist that they'd planned it and all this other kind of stuff. So that was where the prosecution was coming from. So of course the defense are going to try to come at it because, like I said, you couldn't say, oh, they didn't do it, because obviously they did. So they had to find some reason for it that people would relate to or that people would understand. So they said that their father was not only verbally, emotionally, physically abusive, also sexually abusive. Lyle said that he was sexually abused for 2 years, from age 6 to age 8. And Erik was abused from age 6 to age 18. And there was, and they put some of this because they showed quite a bit of the court footage in the documentary that's on Netflix, of them kind of talking about what the sexual abuse implied, which they said started out as quote-unquote genital massages, and then went, it was a weird way of putting it, but I get what they're saying, but and then kind of went into, basically their dad like sticking stuff in their butt and making the kids like give him oral and shit like that. And Lyle also said that when him and Erik were kids, that he also took Erik out in the woods one time and molested Erik in almost kind of like in emulation of his father.
Yeah.
I think he like stuck a toothbrush up his butt or something.
First of all, I don't believe much of this. And even if it was true, it still doesn't justify a first degree murder under American law. They can fucking say this all they want. They're not going anywhere. They're going to be in prison the rest of their lives. Because what they're going to say is they're going to say, well, you weren't in imminent danger at the time you ran in there and blasted both your mom and your dad at the fucking thing. They weren't holding an axe over your head. They weren't fucking trying to kill you at that time. That was an assassination. And that's a first-degree murder.
Yeah, like I said, from a legal standpoint, that's what you would say.
All this stuff about...
That's what I'm saying.
Well,
it's like,
they molested me, or well, they had an atomic bomb, or oh, well, they were... None of that fucking matters in first-degree murder. It just doesn't. You know, just
and that's, well, like I said, that's
so
kind of
they're just grasping for straws.
And you know, like I said,
they're gonna say, they're gonna say, you got molested and then you murdered your parents, and we're gonna lock you the fuck up for the rest of your life. That's
what I mean.
That's what they're gonna say.
Both of those things could be true.
Yeah.
Like you said, that doesn't necessarily justify. what they did. Like you can
say,
like understand
should have
it.
gone to the authorities and let us handle it. Because
Right.
see, the state does not want you to fucking have full, fucking, what do you call it? Fucking dominion over your own life. You're not. They're gonna say you're not judge, jury, and executioner. There was no forensic evidence and shit. You're not a courtroom. That was an assassination. Boom, life. That's what it was. You can't. Justifiable homicide is only in defense of oneself or another, under fucking immediate impending fear of great bodily harm or death. That's basically what the laws always say. So you don't really have, it doesn't, and then it'll go on to say, the fear need not be real. It's just that the defendant gotta have like a reasonable, the defendant has to have reasonable belief that he's going to be harmed. That's going to be up to the jury.
Yeah, and the thing about it, like I said, in the first trials here, there was a hung jury. They couldn't decide like what they were going to do with it. But somebody like 19 Nicoletta brings something up. José and Kitty refused to let Erik move away to college as he was desperate to get away from them. They did mention that in the documentary that Erik actually wanted to go away to college, but but José would not allow him to.
Yeah, it's still that doesn't
But like I said, and
that is not gonna matter.
That's what I'm saying. Like I said, I don't really. The more they talked about the abuse, I was like, okay, well maybe that probably did happen, because they did have some other relatives that I don't think any of the relatives saw anything directly, but they heard about it, and they did say, like a couple of them did say that Lyle or Erik had said something about it to them, like when they were younger. Like, so it wasn't just something they made up for the trial. So, like I said, I don't think that it necessarily has to be a lie. I just think that from a legal standpoint,
it's not enough.
It wouldn't be enough to justify the way that they did it.
You justifiable fucking first-degree murder is unjustifiable legally. You can't justify it. The laws are set up that way. That's just how it is. You can't kill people. They're going to say, if you thought you were really in danger, you would have ran, you would have gone to the authorities. And they said, well, yeah, we didn't, we were too scared. And they go, okay, then you took matters into your own hands, and you killed the person, and you're a menace to society. That's what they're going to say. You're going to be locked up for the rest of your fucking life. Because you didn't do the right thing. You didn't go to the authorities. That's what they're going to say. That's what they always say.
Yeah. But yeah, and like you said, they did. I mean, both Lyle and Erik argued that they were afraid that their dad had said that he would kill them if they ever told anybody what he was doing. Yeah.
They can go to PC. They can go into protective custody. They can go all kinds of fucking. There's all kinds of fucking. The thing is that they were adults at that time. Fucking, you know what I mean? Fucking, they could have gone to the cops and they would have fucking filed a suit against them, charged them.
Yeah, I mean that probably would have been
that's
the wiser
move. So no, there's a system that they want you to obey. You can't murder people. That's part of the system.
As a general rule.
You can't murder people. That's it.
Probably best for all of us.
Especially if it's premeditated. They don't care.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing.
There's no justification for first-degree murder.
Right.
I want you to go read those fucking criminal statutes and try to see if there's any fucking way in that law to justify fucking, and all those laws to justify first-degree murder. It won't be there. They made sure of that. They don't want people being hitmen. and assassins, because that's what would happen.
Yeah.
Vigilantism, that kind of shit.
Yeah.
You can run around like you're Judge Dredd. They're going to say no. The state's going to say no. That's our job.
Yeah.
You know, you didn't give that person due process. So there's all kinds of shit that they can come at you with.
Yeah. But so the defense is on there. Like I said, they gave a lot of testimony about the abuse and everything like that. And Lyle, perhaps one of the things that they said was, again, like a catalyst for the murder, was that Lyle had actually... He said in his testimony that he wasn't fully aware that the abuse was still going on. You know what I mean? Because Lyle said that his dad had stopped abusing him when he was 8 years old, but I guess like the abuse with Erik had continued, according to him. So he found out that it was still going on because Erik said about it. And then he confronted his dad about it, but this isn't the murder day. Like I said, if there'd been like a fight about that and he'd killed his dad then it probably would have gone a lot differently, but that's not what happened. He says that there was a big confrontation where he was like, why are you doing this to him still? And there was a big fight about it. And then his dad was like, I don't know if his dad like threatened him outright, but was like, you know, was furious with him and everything like that. And Lyle said that he interpreted that as a death threat. And so he was saying to Erik that it's like, okay, well, we need to go on with this thing that we've been talking about doing. So there was that as well. So like I said, he's trying to argue that they believed they were in imminent danger, that their dad was going to kill them. Like I said, might have been different if they had this altercation that supposedly happened and he'd killed him during that, like that would have been a lot different. He probably would have got off then, but that's not what happened. This was like a few days before the murder. So under the law in California, which as far as I know is still the law nowadays, they could be given manslaughter if they could prove they were in imminent danger, which that's what they were trying to argue, that they at least felt that they were in imminent danger. So of course the prosecution is going to argue, you know, there's no evidence that you were in immediate danger, therefore it is not manslaughter. You know, you guys bought the guns a few days beforehand. You know, we have taped conversations where you said you had planned them beforehand. You know, they're like, the fact that you shot your mom, she didn't die right away, and then you went out and got more ammo and then came back and finished her off. That's obviously not, you know, an imminent danger type of situation. It doesn't really read like that.
Imminent danger, what they're talking about in those laws is that you're in combat with that person. That you're in hand-to-hand combat and you're losing, and you feel that this person is going to fucking seriously hurt you. And then it comes on to say that the danger need not be real. You just have to, the defendant just has to have a reasonable belief that it was real. So what they're talking about there usually is that dude points a gun at you, you shoot and kill him. Turns out that wasn't a real gun, or it was a BB gun. Well, that's okay. You had a reasonable belief.
I mean, you thought it was.
You thought it was. You had a reason. And most people would have reasonably believed that was a real gun. So yeah, right. You're good to go. You know, even if it's fucking two dudes trying to kill each other, which a lot of times that's what manslaughter is also. Two dudes that are just guilty. They're trying to kill each other. Then the survivor's charged with manslaughter. A lot of times that happens. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the other guy's a bad guy too. So they're going to try to fucking nail him to the wall. Drug dealers fighting, you know.
Sure. Let him fight.
You could probably both dudes probably had a decent claim to self-defense because they were both trying to kill each other. Yeah. You know what I mean?
No, it was my self-defense. No,
I got to kill him before he kills me.
Yeah. Fight to the death.
Yeah.
And they just kill each other.
Yeah.
Take them both out.
Yeah. So what they'll do then, they hit you in manslaughter, give you fucking 10 years. Shit like that.
Yeah. So the prosecution further argued that, that there was no mention of any abuse, like, until, you know, the defense was trying to come up with a case, which I don't think, because they did have some relatives that did testify that Lyle and or Erik had told them about abuse, like, previously. But you know what I mean. So there was a couple relatives that did say that, even though I don't think any of them witnessed it directly. But the prosecution's trying to argue, no, you guys just made this up. You just did it for money, and you just made this up to make us all feel better about it, I guess. So there was that. Another thing that the prosecution tried to do was that, you know, both of them are really capable of lying, and they played that 911 tape with Lyle crying into the phone, so we're telling my parents, like, all like that. And they're like, well, you know, they did it, so he's acting.
Yeah.
Obviously. So it's like, so he's pretty good at it, see? So he's perfectly capable of, like, lying when he gets, you know, when he wants to get out of trouble. You know what I mean? So they did kind of, which, you know, I can see him, like, showing that. Also, Lyle's ex-girlfriend, whose name was Jamie Pisarcik, I think is how you pronounce her last name, testified. She actually testified at both trials, but the first trial, she testified that Lyle said that he would give her money if she said that Jose had made sexual advances toward her. She said she reported this to the cops, and she later repeated this claim at the trial. Like I said, she gave testimony at both trials. Now, Lyle did actually admit to this under questioning, like, before she was able to say it. I guess the attorneys, like, advised him to do that, so that, you know, it wasn't like a big shock to the jury or anything. They're like, you better come out and fucking say you did that, you know what I mean? So yeah. So, like I said, they did have a couple, and actually there were several of their, like, the Netflix documentary tended to err on the side of the abuse happening. They had several of the Menendez relatives, extended relatives and stuff like that, that did actually believe that the abuse had happened. So they do have a lot of supporters in that regard. And a lot of them did say when it first happened, they couldn't believe, like, that the brothers would do something like that, blah, blah, blah. They did have one cousin, and I believe she was on the documentary as well. His name was Diane Vandermolen. And she said that she was staying with the family once in the 70s, and Lyle told her that that Jose was molesting him, but she never saw it happen. But she said that he told her that, and that she told Kitty, the mom, about it, and the mom was like, you know, just whatever, I don't believe you, or whatever. So whether that happened or not, but the cousin said that happened, so I'm not really sure. Like I said, though, as shitty as that would have been if all that abuse was going on, which, you know, it probably was, that doesn't mean that what they did wasn't still first degree murder, because it is.
Nicoletta, she's going crazy in there.
Yeah.
that name kind of sounds familiar. I think she's been in here before.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember.
Yeah.
I don't remember. But yeah. So there were also, like, a couple of things that the defense introduced. They showed, like, these two pictures of, like, baby boys, but only from the waist down. I don't know if they were naked or dressed. It didn't really specify. And Lyle said their dad took them. Of them. But they couldn't really, I mean, the prosecution argued, it's like, well, you know, there's no proof that your dad took those. You know what I mean? Like, anybody could have taken those. They were, like, on a roll of film, like, with a children's birthday party. Like, there was some other pictures in there. So it's like there's no proof that he took it, so they couldn't really, you know, use that as evidence or whatever. They also, there was a point on one of the tapes that the therapist had recorded where I believe that one of the boys, or both of them, I call them boys, they were, you know, older, referred to themselves as sociopaths. Now, this was on the tape, but the defense argued to not have that part played because they thought it'd be prejudicial, like them referring to themselves like that, and they did actually win that fight, so they weren't allowed to play that part of the tape, or they weren't allowed to introduce that into evidence that they had referred to themselves that way. So that was kind of one win that the defense got. So the first trials, which, like I said, were kind of done at the same time, but they had separate juries. So that went on for 6 months. Both the juries were hung juries, as in they could not reach a verdict. it was basically, if you believe that they just shot their parents for money, then obviously that's first-degree murder. Or if you thought that, you know, there were mitigating circumstances because they were in fear for their lives or whatever, then you were supposed to vote for manslaughter. There was no releasing them. They were going to prison no matter what because they did actually kill 2 people. They were just trying to see, like, what the sentence would be. And manslaughter, like you said, would probably be like 10 years or something like that. Now, interestingly, the juries, neither of them could, I mean, the judge was, like, trying to, like, tell them, you know, you guys really have to make a decision, but, like, they had a couple of the jurors from the first trial and a couple from the second one too, like, on the documentary, and they were just like, we tried and tried, like, because the judge was, like, getting on our ass, like, to, you know, come up with a verdict, but we just couldn't decide. And the weird thing was that it was split right down the middle. Like, all the male jurors were like, first degree murder, absolutely, and all the female jurors were like, manslaughter. You know what I mean? Because they seemed like a little more empathetic. So there was that, but they could not come to a decision. That was just an impasse. And the one woman that was on the jury said she's like, we were sequestered for like a month, and we tried. It's like we really tried to, like, come up with, but we just could not agree on a verdict. And so finally they had to go in front of the judge and say, look, we just can't do it. We can't decide. So both of the juries were hung, which meant that both of the both of the Menendez brothers had to be retried. Now they were going to retry them together this time instead of with separate juries. So it was all going to be the same thing, with same judge though, but it was going to be like just all one trial. So the second trial happened in 1995, and this one, it's almost like it wasn't nearly as big a deal because, one, it was the second trial, two, it wasn't on TV, like it wasn't televised like the first one was, and it took place shortly after the O.J. Simpson acquittal, so everyone was kind of like focused on that, obviously. And as CB said, they kind of talked about this, like some of the attorneys and stuff talked about this, like in the DA and stuff, talked about this in the documentary where they were saying, well, because O.J. had gotten off, and because the Menendez's, there had been a hung jury the first time, and the judge was kind of pissed off about that because he hadn't gotten a conviction. In the second trial, the judge would actually not allow a lot of the stuff about the abuse as had been allowed in the first trial. So the defense was not happy about this because they're like, look, that's like our whole case. You know what I mean? You're basically cutting the legs out from our case. We can't defend them because you're basically saying this isn't allowed and that's not allowed and everything like that. Like, they did allow them to argue some of the stuff, but like, they're like, all that extensive stuff about all the abuse and everything like that, you guys can't do that this time. And it almost seemed like they were just kind of engineered. It's like, look, can we just give them first degree murder for Christ's sake?
Because the lawyers know the same thing I've been telling you. They don't give a shit about that abuse. It doesn't justify first degree murder. They don't care.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So I get that the defense were upset because it's like, look, that's our whole case and we can't argue it now because you're telling we're not allowed to argue this and that and the other thing.
And there was no manslaughter because that's not what they described. You know, there was no combat, no open combat between the two. No, there wasn't anybody grappling. Nobody attacked anybody else. It was just a straight up assassination. They were in there and the dudes ran in and just opened fired on them. One of them, an innocent person. Even just that woman alone, that put you in fucking for life in prison, because she was totally innocent. So yeah, you can forget about all this. Well, they were abused. The law doesn't give a fuck about that. Now, if it was a manslaughter, maybe you're being abused, and then you say, "Fuck that shit! This is it!" Pow! And you hit that dude with a fucking metal pipe and kill him.
Well, because that does happen sometimes. Because
you'll
that's
probably walk.
Like I said, that's what they used to call battered woman syndrome. It's like a woman that's been abused for years and years and years.
Yeah, and he was in an imminent situation.
And then finally she's like, fuck this dude, and she just fucking kills him.
And it was an imminent situation.
So I think they were kind of trying to argue the same thing that, for example, like battered woman syndrome, where like a woman is abused for years and years, and then finally she just like cracks one day and just like kills a dude while he's sleeping.
Yeah, but that's only going to work with a woman with a jury, not two strapping young boys. They can escape. The woman can't escape. And when I say they can escape, they're going to fucking escape and be paupers and homeless down on fucking Skid Row for all the jury gives a fuck. They don't give a fuck. you could physically escape from that danger. And if you can do that, then there's no way you're going to get manslaughter. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the shit that's happening in a manslaughter, the person can't escape, Although some states like Florida, they have fucking stand your ground, where you don't have any legal requirement to run from an attacker. You can stand your ground and fight them, which is the way it should be. Because if it was the other way around, and if I wanted to rob you, all I'd do is just rush right out of you and scare the shit out of you, and you have to run, and now I can fucking grab your shit, fucking kick you in the ass, and run off. So, you should have stand your ground laws. Everyone has the right to defend themselves and others from attack. Now, there's a stipulation, though. You have to have the legal right to be where you are. If you break into somebody's house and the fucking homeowner attacks you, you don't have the right to fucking stand your ground. You're a home invader. He's gonna fucking, in this state, light you up, and you better run. And if he shoots you in the back, you'll still get away with it. So I know what I'm talking about. Fucking read all these laws. I fucking watch videos of cops shoot people all the fucking time. I watch 3 or 4 of them a day. I've seen thousands and thousands of them, and know how the law treats it and everything. And the cops are basically following the same laws as civilians. They're not really all that special. They have to do the same thing. It can't be murder. It can only be in defense of others or themselves. So any civilian can do that. Any citizen can do that. A cop can't murder somebody. You're going to go to prison. Like that woman that looked like maybe she was going to throw that pot of water on that dude. He fucking plugged her for rebuking him. That was murder.
Well, yeah. I saw that video.
Yeah. Maybe manslaughter.
No.
I think it was second-degree murder.
Yeah, definitely. Because there was absolutely no reason for him to flip the fuck out like that.
No.
No reason. She did nothing.
No. He must have had some kind of PTSD or mental problems or something, but that still didn't make it not murder.
Because I watched it, I was like, what the fuck, dude? Like, why?
Yeah, why'd he shoot that woman?
Yeah, why did he do that? Like, she didn't do anything to...
No.
Like, sketchy, or she didn't run at him or nothing.
No, she had mental health problems, and she was just afraid that somebody was breaking into her backyard, and she fucking called the cops, and she was slow to answer. She was slow to answer the cops, because I think she was kind of intimidated by having these 2 big white guys in her house.
And it turned out she was correct.
Yeah.
Because one of them fucking shot her and killed her.
And they just thought she was sketchy. That one was getting impatient with her, and she picked up a fucking pot of water, and it was on the fucking stove, and she was taking it over to the... She took it off the fire and was taking it or something. And she goes, "I rebuke you in the name." And she's, you. And he pulled a fucking gun on her. What now? Don't throw that fucking pot at me! Bow.
She wasn't gonna.
No, she was ducking down. The pot fucking fell. Was kind of thrown, but I think because she didn't want it to spill on herself. He was fucking on the other side of the room.
Yeah, she was way the fuck over in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And she didn't even yell that.
No.
She was just making a joke.
Yeah.
It sounded like to me.
Yeah. She was...
it just sounded like she was joking.
Yeah, and she was...
she didn't raise her voice or anything.
And she called them. She called them. So, it's the same thing. Just because he's a cop, he can't really get away with that. Yes, you got to follow the same laws as everybody else.
Although a lot of times they do kind of get away with it, I hate to say.
No, every fucking...
That guy didn't.
Every video I've seen is either defense of others or defense of themselves, but it just doesn't take much to justify defense of self or others if you're a cop. If the dude's armed and he's not surrendering and he's running and he looks like he's going to be a menace to somebody else or he's trying to get away, they shoot him. Because he's become now a menace to society. So you're defending the public. There's a bunch of different ways they can do that. Now, could I do that? Probably not. I could probably not do that. I probably couldn't convince a jury of that. See, but fucking the DA is going to look at what happened. You know, the district attorney is going to look and he's going to go, yeah, as law enforcement, yeah, that's about standard. And they don't fucking level any charges on the cops. If I had done that same thing, they'd probably go, well, this guy's not really a law enforcement agent and fucking, you know, he didn't, how does he know this? Then they're looking at you fucking sideways and shit. So with civilians and self-defense shootings and defense of others, it's got to be real clear cut. It's better to err on the side of fucking What is it? Err on the side of fucking... What am I fucking going to say? Yeah, you guys know what I'm talking about. Not err on the side of reason. What are you talking about? You err on the side of fucking...
I don't know. I can't think of what you're saying.
Okay.
I can't think of what you're saying.
You want to err on the side of fucking being conservative.
Caution.
Caution. Yeah, err on the side of caution. That's
okay. I wasn't sure what you were getting at.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. You don't want to fucking go, well, let's just kill this dude. You know what I mean? You want to be pretty sure about it.
Well, I would hope
that
people
err
are
on the side
not
of caution.
going around like saying that.
Yeah.
I probably need another drink, honestly. Nicoletta points out, it's like jurors in the second trial said if they had known about the abuse, they would not have convicted them. And she does make actually a good point here, off topic. Gypsy Rose, she's talking about Gypsy Rose Blanchard, literally planned her mother's murder, gave her boyfriend the knife, went in the bathroom while the murder occurred. She was sentenced to 10 years. Yeah, I kind of feel like people were a lot more sympathetic toward her. I think we did a show about her like a long time ago. Still, like I said, still not great. And the thing about it is that that's why these kind of cases are so complicated, because yes, there is kind of a thing about abuse and people that have like lived through abuse and stuff like that. Like, yes, it's not that easy for them to leave. Like a lot of times they're mentally fucked up and stuff like that. And as I said, I don't think, I'm not saying that there wasn't abuse in this situation. I'm just saying that I don't know, like some of the stuff that they did and some of the way that they acted like after the murder kind of suggested more to me that they had done it for the money. But that doesn't, like I said, that doesn't mean that they weren't abused, because maybe they were. But I'm just saying that, I don't know. I think if they really wanted to kill their parents, they should have gone about it a different way, is all I'm saying. You know what I mean? Yeah. So the second trial, actually, Erik testified, but Lyle did not. And the judge, thank you, as I said, ruled that you couldn't bring up anything about the sexual abuse because the judge said there wasn't enough evidence of that, which, like I said, the defense was like pretty pissed off because they're like, that's kind of most of our case, so we can't say anything now. And he also said that there was not enough evidence to support that the brothers were in imminent danger when the murder occurred. Now, they did say that they could argue, that the defense could argue, that they shot their dad in the heat of passion, which would be second-degree murder, I guess. You could argue that.
Hard to say that.
But you couldn't. They said, but you can't argue that in the case of your mom. He's like, so that was as much leeway as he gave him. It's like, I'm willing to concede that maybe you shot your dad, because it was a big thing, but like, he's like, the way that you shot your mom, it's like, I'm not buying that.
Nicoletta wants them free just because they're cute. That's what she does. That's all I guess she gives a shit. She's trying to get laid.
I don't know. Like I said, it's just...
No, those dudes are guilty.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. She's saying, well, the victims of fucking abuse, it's hard for them to leave. The law doesn't give a fuck. That's
what I'm saying.
That's
like
not
I said,
situated. They don't give a fuck.
It is.
Yeah.
But like I said, that's why cases like these are really difficult, because... and bring up all of these issues.
Yeah, the laws don't give a fuck.
Because, like I said, if I knew someone, if I knew a woman that had been, like, abused for years and years by her husband or boyfriend or whatever, and then she just ended up, like, I can't fucking take it anymore. It's like, I want to leave, but he'll probably kill me if I leave, so I'm going to poison him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You get your first-degree murder.
I mean, you probably would. But like I said, I kind of feel like if the situation was known, she'd probably get a lighter sentence. I don't know if she'd get life necessarily. It would depend on how...
Well, what happened was this. A jury doesn't actually have to fucking convict somebody if they're guilty. A jury can go, you know what? Yeah, that person is guilty, but we don't like this case.
But we don't,
And we don't like these laws in this situation, so we're just going to quit her.
Yeah.
They can do that.
Yeah, of course they can.
That's what they're hoping for.
Yeah.
But if you just follow the law doesn't give a fuck.
Yeah.
It's totally impassive and sympathetic. The law is not left-wing, if that's what you're looking at. It's not sympathetic, really. It just stipulates what the rules are. If you break those rules, they have a punishment already formulated for that.
But like I said, the reason that they have like variations in sentencing and things like that is for situations like that, because everything isn't always cut and dried.
Well, no. Some crimes, the judge can decide how much time and what the punishment would be. But things like first degree and second degree murder, the judges, his hands are tied. He can't go, well, I'm just going to give you 5. It was first degree murder, but I'm going to give you 5 years. They can't do that. It's mandatory life or death. on first degree in most states. Some states don't have death penalty, but it's mandatory. It's mandatory for first and second degree murder of life sentence at least. So the judge can't give another sentence than that. If you're found guilty of those, you're fucking gone.
Yeah, so like I said, so the judge was basically willing. So obviously the second trial was much shorter because the defense didn't have a lot of shit to argue because a lot of it was not allowed this time around. So that kind of sort of what was the word I was looking for?
I'm gonna do it to you now. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't remember what I was trying to think. I'll probably think of it like 10 minutes from now.
Yeah, it's just their defense.
It stymied them. That's what I was trying to say.
Their defense is an emotional plea. They're trying to get a jury to acquit them.
Well, like I said, I kind of feel like I think, at least from what I could determine, is they knew they were not going to walk.
Yeah.
They were trying to argue just for a lesser sentence.
Yeah.
Is what they were trying to do. Like, they were trying to get manslaughter and get a lesser sentence. They knew they were going to prison.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what they were trying to do, but it wouldn't happen.
Because they knew they weren't going to let go. They knew they weren't going to be let go.
What happened is not how manslaughter is described, though. You know what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. Manslaughter is always described as fucking basically something that would be a second-degree murder, but it was in the heat of passion, and the person who did it had sufficient provocation to deprive them of cool reasoning and calm reflection. Okay. If you have the time to plan something and prepare for it and to fucking launch an ambush, it's not really in the heat of passion. That's cold-blooded murder. You're not defending yourself.
Yeah.
You know,
in the moment.
You're not in the moment. This person's attacking you, or this person said some crazy shit to you, so you blew them away. It's not that. It's an assassination. It's first-degree murder.
Yeah.
That's just how.
And like I said, that's
what it is.
Well, and that's what we're just arguing from a legal standpoint. It's like no one's saying that José Menendez wasn't a piece of shit, because by all accounts he was.
Yeah.
And it's probably likely that he was abusing that, and maybe he abused some others too, because I'll talk about that in a second.
You just can't assassinate assholes, though.
Right.
You just can't.
Man, wouldn't it be cool if we could?
Yeah. So this motherfucker's an asshole. He's molesting all these kids, so I'm gonna go kill that dude. You're gonna go to fucking jail, man. For prison for the rest of your life.
You still are.
Yep.
It's like even if the person is terrible, you can't just kill them, unfortunately.
Yeah. You say, man, that dude's been over there and he got them 12 little kids and all that shit. Fuck this. I'm gonna get my shit. As soon as you say I'm gonna get my shit, you're premeditating. You know? Yeah. I'm gonna blow that motherfucker away. But I'm gonna wait till tomorrow. You know, that makes it even worse. You know what I mean? Fucking you're gonna fucking spend life in prison. Unless the jury just goes, nah, fuck it, we'll let him go.
Yeah, fuck that guy.
But it's very unlikely.
We would have killed that guy too.
But it's very unlikely. The only guy that I know that got away with it is dude was at the airport, and the guy who molested his son was going on a trial, was walked behind him, and he pulled out the fucking revolver and blew him away right in front of the cops in the airport. He walked for molesting his son, raping his son. He walked because the jury let him go, but legally that would have first degree murder.
Yeah, technically that is.
Yeah. But the jury said,
would it be second degree? Because
first degree. He went to the airport because he knew he was flying there. Fucking, he had a fucking pistol ready to go. I thought he just saw him
no,
it was an assassination.
Oh, hey, look at that motherfucker.
No, it was an assassination.
Okay, so he went there on purpose.
Yeah, went there on purpose to kill him. And he was pretending like he was talking on the phone, and when him and the cops walked by, he went back, pow, and popped him right on the head. They actually got it. They got it on film.
Yeah.
Because the news cameras were fucking looking at it when he did it. And then the cops jumped on him. It turned out that was the victim's dad.
Right.
He was like a little 6-year-old boy or something.
Which, like I said, I think that
if the jury let him walk.
Right.
They were just like, yeah, you can go.
Well, because you kind of feel like most reasonable people would probably do the same thing, or
Yeah, but that's not the situation with these kids.
Yeah, I kind of feel like maybe not.
No.
Like I said, it's a gray area. It's a gray area.
I don't think it's gray at all. I think it's black and white. I think it was an assassination.
I'm kind of more tending toward the idea that they just did it for money.
Yeah, I think so.
CB said, Tom, do you think the woman in I Spit on Your Grave should have gone to prison for killing her abusers?
No, but they would have sent her to prison.
Yeah, I mean, technically, because she planned that shit too, because they gang raped her a couple times, and then but she lured them back to her thing, like into her traps, you know what I mean? So yeah, she'd still get. I wouldn't. If I was on a jury, I wouldn't convict her.
Yeah, that's probably what would happen. Is a jury would just go, yeah, she fucking murdered 16 of them dudes.
Fuck those guys.
But fuck those dudes. She's not guilty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think.
And really, the judge can't do anything about it.
It was 40.
They can't try her again. So.
I mean, she's a fictional character, but you're saying, like, in real life.
And they're going to have district attorneys, fucking, the prosecutor's going to go, enumerate, fucking, this is what the jury instructions are, you must convict, because this and that, if this happens, then you must convict. That the jury can just go, fuck that, and just go, not guilty. Yeah. Knowing that she was guilty.
Yeah. Well, another consideration that you have to think of is, do you think this person is a threat to other people?
To the rest of society, yeah.
Like, if they just killed somebody that was their abuser, or, after years and years of it, then it's like you could argue that, well, that was a special situation, and they are unlikely to reoffend. I mean, you never know, but...
I think it was for the money. And I think all the abuse stuff was kind of like, yeah, there might have been some emotional abuse, you know what I mean, and then fucking making crazy decisions. The sexual abuse, I kind of question that. It probably didn't happen. I think they embellished, try to make it, they were probably just assholes.
Maybe. Although, okay, so like I said, let me, we're kind of getting, my nose is getting stuffed up. Hopefully I'm not getting a cold or something. But, yeah, so as it ended up in the second trial, where a lot of the previous stuff was not allowed, both Lyle and Erik were convicted, 2 counts of first-degree murder, special circumstances for lying in wait. So that happened in 1996. They both got life without parole. Now, interestingly, so in the years since they've been in prison, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, I kind of feel like because of the Netflix documentary and the series that came out, which was called Monsters, that's also on Netflix, and because Court TV just recently put the whole trial on streaming, a lot of younger people who were not alive at the time of the trial have been watching it and kind of become fascinated by it. And a lot of them seem a lot more sympathetic toward the Menendez brothers and think that they should be released. Because like I said, there's obviously a lot more understanding about abuse and stuff like that, and they are more inclined to believe them. So I kind of feel like that's why it's funny, because even the documentary that they did on Netflix, like the prosecuting attorney, she even said the only reason we're here is because of all the TikTok stuff. And then she's like, that's the only reason we're doing this special. And then she said, and all you TikTok people, she's like, I'm armed, so don't fuck with me. You know what I mean? And I thought it was like really funny that she was like, she didn't want all these like TikTok like influencers like showing up on her doorstep. She's gonna blow them away or whatever. That's what she was implying anyway. But she was actually kind of funny. But yeah. So the thing about it, so they actually were in separate prisons for a long time. They would write letters back and forth and shit like that, but they were like but they kept making like appeals to be in the same prison because, like I said, they were very close. And finally, they did grant, after 20 odd years, 22 years, something like that. They did actually put them in the same facility, so now they can like see each other every day. Now, in May of 2023, very recently, the Menendez brothers requested a new hearing, and this request came about because, as someone mentioned earlier, a former member of Menudo named Ray Rossello, who, if you'll remember, Menudo was signed to RCA Records at the time when José Menendez was the head of RCA. And Roy Rossello claimed that when he was 14 years old, he was at the Menendez house in New Jersey, and José Menendez drugged and raped him. And he has signed a statement to that effect. As far as I know, he is kind of the only like high-profile celebrity that has come forward and said that. But the fact that he came forward, that constitutes, I guess, like new evidence in the case that, you know, maybe José Menendez was molesting other people as well. So the Menendez brothers are trying to get like an like a new hearing and perhaps get their sentence lowered or get released or whatever. So they were going to do a resentencing trial, and it was supposed to start last week on December 11th, but they had a court hearing prior to that, and they actually ended up pushing the trial back to late January. So I think the last 2 days of January, like, is the resentencing trial. So some people have speculated that they might, you know, bump the charges down to manslaughter and just, like, release them, because, like I said, they've been in for 35 years. But like I said, but you weren't here when I said that one of the things that spurred the talking about a retrial was that a member of Menudo, who was a member of Menudo back in the day, came forward and said that José Menendez had drugged and raped him at the Menendez family house back then, like when he was 14. So
did he go to the police?
I don't know. I don't know if there was a police report, but he has, like, signed a statement to that effect that happened when he was 14.
Well, that might be some mitigating evidence there.
Well, that's why the Menendez brothers, when they heard about that, they said, okay, well, we want to...
Means that the abuse was real. But the thing is that really, if you fucking look at the way the law says, the law doesn't give a shit about the abuse. It's only thing that's going to matter is whether or not that jury convicts or not.
Yeah.
And
I kind of feel like in light of that, though, I feel like it's probably more likely that they will have their sentences reduced to manslaughter, and if they do, then that would be time served, and they would probably be released because
it might justify a new trial.
They've been in for I don't know if they're going to do retrial or resentencing. Like I said, it's the end of January. They're going to do it. They're doing a hearing, so that's why it's kind of, you know, fortuitous that we're talking about this now. But so we'll see how it goes. Like I said, I don't know, because they've already spent 35 years, something like that, like in prison. And I don't know. The thing about it is that if the child sexual abuse claims were not true, I will admit that the brothers have stuck to their guns this whole time. And Lyle, in particular, even counsels other prisoners that suffered from childhood sexual abuse, like while he's been in jail. So they've stuck to their story this whole time. So I guess that's something. But I don't know. Like, I don't really know where I stand on this. I do kind of feel like at the time that this happened, at the time of the murder, at the time of the original trial in 1993, I kind of feel like public sentiment was very much against them. They thought they were just these arrogant rich kids who blew their parents away for money. And I kind of more lean toward that.
That's what I believe it was.
But yeah, but I do kind of feel like in the years since, I think people have been more open to the abuse. And the thing about this, the kid, well, he's not a kid anymore, obviously, but when he was a kid, the guy from Menudo, like, coming forward and saying that, yeah, he was abused by José Menendez too.
But I'd like to hear his testimony and see if he can what he's like under cross-examination. You know what I mean? Fucking to see if there's any holes in this story. Like, maybe he wasn't in town on that date. He might have been down in Mexico doing a show or something. You never can tell. You got to actually kind of... You got to fucking check these witnesses. You know, people can come forward, you know, for all you know, that dude's got a crush on these dudes trying to let him out. You don't know.
Well, the thing
or
about
he's
it...
trying to get famous.
I mean, I'm thinking that at least... They thought this claim was credible, because I'm sure they looked into it. Yeah. Otherwise, they wouldn't have bothered to do they'd have been like, fuck off with that. So they did actually go through all the trouble of, like, scheduling a new hearing and stuff like that. So they obviously thought there was some merit to the claim, and they thought that it warranted reopening the case again and see what was going on.
If it's true, then dude was a scumbag.
Well, like I said, pretty much everybody said he was a scumbag.
Yeah.
But like I said, that doesn't necessarily mean you're just allowed to blow somebody away.
You can't kill him, right? Yeah. It's still not.
But
good,
yeah, nobody liked him. Like I said, even the prosecuting who were, you know, supposedly trying to get justice for the victims, even the prosecuting attorney was like, yeah, he was a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Like, everybody hated him. It's like we couldn't even get a character witness, like, to come in and go, yeah, what a good guy. Like, we couldn't find a single person. We couldn't find a single person that would say anything good about him. So when even the prosecuting attorney is saying that, like, trying to defend the victim, yeah, that's probably pretty bad. But yeah, like I said, no one's arguing he's a piece of shit. But like I said, you can't just plan and go murder a piece of shit just like that. Like I said, had it happened a few days before, when Lyle said that he confronted his dad whether this happened, I don't know, but that's what Lyle said, that he confronted his dad about Eric's ongoing abuse, and they had an altercation. Like, if he had killed him then I think everything would have gone differently. I think he probably would have walked. But because they waited a couple days and then did it the way they did it, you know.
Nicoletta's in there talking about all the good things that they've done since they've locked up and all the. Nicoletta's trying to get laid. She loves them dudes.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
I mean, I don't know.
She's probably writing them.
They're not really my type. But, I'm not really into those like little yuppie kids.
Yeah.
I didn't like them when I was that
age. Dudes are going to come out in their 50s. They're not going to look like they did back then.
Yeah, they're still recognizable.
Yeah.
But, you know, Lyle he shaved his head bald.
Yeah. Well, shit, all that fucking stress and shit, fucking prison fucking life is fucking rough, so.
Yeah, Old Russ has said they're both married, I think, right? Yeah,
they're both married?
They did actually marry.
They're married when they're in there?
Yeah, they did. But
do they give them conjugal visits?
You know what? I don't think they do because...
Damn.
Well, there was an interview with Erik talking, and it's like, yeah, he'd gotten married, and he said, like, was talking about how hard it was that...
Yeah.
You know... And one of their wives was talking about, like, oh, you know, they don't have any sex in their life or anything like that. So I'm assuming they do not get conjugal visits. Yeah, you wouldn't get conjugal visits to your, like, life without parole, do you?
No, I don't know.
I guess it depends.
It depends on what's facility, what
I'm not really sure,
but
like,
I think
protocol.
Right. Thing is, the type of women that marry guys who have fucking super long sentences like that, there are always a certain personality type where... They're marrying the guy because they like him. He's attractive, but he's also under control. He can't go anywhere.
He can't go anywhere.
So he's totally faithful to her. You know, she can come see him and fucking he can't cheat on her. So that's kind of the thing that they have, and then she's able to help him. You know, like a wounded pigeon type of deal.
Yeah.
So that's what's going on there.
It just sounds like a lot of drama.
Yeah. Well, I think the drama is what kind of keeps them going.
There for it.
And it's always constantly yearning for the future. The one day when he comes and gets out, you know, that type of shit.
I mean, I get it. Intellectually, I get it.
It's but I don't like waiting for Christmas.
I don't feel that way, but
no,
I can see why some people do.
It's only a certain personality type that'll do that. It's kind of like there's only a certain kind of personality type that'll fucking marry a serial killer. And just
we did a whole show about women that fall in love with serial killers.
Yeah, and motherfuckers been convicted and everything. Everybody knows what he did. Those women just fucking love him, want to marry him and everything. Fucking Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, got married. Fucking so did fucking Ted Bundy got married. Ted Bundy. He married one of the girls that worked at court. It was the recorder, wasn't it?
So gross. Yeah, I don't remember.
There's a certain kind of woman that wants a bad boy, and he's under control.
Yeah,
though.
I want to marry a dude that fucks severed heads. Fuck off with that.
Yeah.
That's disgusting.
Yeah. I understand him. I can help him. He would never do that to me. He's under control, too. He can't cheat on me. He loves me. He'd never do that to me.
Like, I get it. It's kind of sad, honestly. Like I said, we did a whole show about women that do that. Yeah. But, you don't see... Well, I mean, there's a little bit of it the other way around, too, because you don't see as many, like, high-profile, like, female serial killers like you do male serial killers. They do have fanboys, but it's not really the same dynamic, I find. Yeah. Like, I couldn't really find a huge amount of examples of it. Yeah, Charles Manson married. They all get married. It's fucking crazy.
Well, he's a celebrity, too.
That's another thing.
So now she can walk around saying, I'm Charles Manson's wife.
And everyone's just like,
oh, okay.
I'm going over here. I'm just, you know what I mean? Oh, my God. Yeah. Oh, yeah, and Nicoletta pointed out Lyle started losing his hair at 14. That's right. He wore a hairpiece.
He wore a hairpiece?
Because remember, even when you saw, like, in the... I had totally forgotten about that. Yeah. Because in the... all the trial footage, like, from the 90s, like, and his hair looked kind of weird. Yeah. That's it, because that's a wig.
Yeah. There was a guy at high school that fucking I knew fucking, and he was going bald by about 14 or 15. He was a rich boy. His dad got him fucking hair implants.
Yeah.
At like 14. Fucking, they did something, fucking moved some of his hair to the front.
Man, that's gotta suck. It's not that common. I don't think
he's like 14 or 15.
I don't think I ever knew anybody that lost their hair that young. I did know some dudes that started losing their hair in their early 20s though.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But not as a teenager.
In your 30s it starts to slowly thin. Start in your 30s usually.
Yeah.
Kind of doesn't matter who you were. Although what was weird is my granddad on my mother's side, He lived to goddamn almost 100. He was like in his late 90s and a full fucking head of black hair.
Yeah, some people get lucky, man. I mean,
like 90.
I feel like most dudes lose their hair.
Yeah.
Women lose their hair too, but it's not as common. But most men lose their hair. But then there's some that just don't.
Yeah.
You see some old people sometimes that had just like a beautiful Leo
Genetic
man.
and hormones.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
That too. Phantom says, Tom, do you make Christmas cookies for Christmas? And if so, what kind?
No, but I have made a lot of cookies. If I was going to make Christmas cookies, I'd make sugar cookies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to make sugar cookies with my mom at Christmas time. She had that little thing that had all the different little shape things you squirt out the dough and made little star-shaped ones and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I like sugar cookies.
I do too. We bought
We can buy sugar cookies, fucking good homemade sugar cookies.
Much easier.
At fucking Publix Bakery.
Yeah, we
They
just
have
go
that
to
shit laid
baking.
all out.
We're
Yeah.
lazy.
There's no reason to...
We don't do a lot of like Tom does a lot of cooking, but we don't do a lot of baking. Every now and then we'll be like, man, let's go bake some cookies. Like oatmeal cookies.
Like I got
or
that
something.
bun cake, I'll make that fucking lemon
Oh
bun
yeah,
cake.
like you made a lemon bundt cake the other day. That was really good.
Yeah.
Like we have an ice cream maker now, so we make ice cream usually.
Yeah.
But yeah, we don't bake all that much. It's like usually if we're just like, oh, we want some cookies or cake or something like that, we'll just go to Publix Bakery.
I got some Nestle Toll House fucking chocolate chips in there that have probably been there for 2 years.
Yeah.
To make chocolate chip
we haven't made cookies in a long time.
Yeah,
I think last time we made cookies was oatmeal cookies.
I wonder if those chocolate chips are still good. It's a fucking huge bag. I got it at Sam's.
I mean, does chocolate go bad?
I don't know.
I guess it
it's
does
sealed.
eventually.
It hasn't even been opened.
It kind of goes white on the outside, but I don't think that'll hurt you or nothing.
Well, when you bake it, it'll probably change color back. I don't know.
Yeah, right. We'll find out, I guess. Maybe that's what we should do. We'll make some fucking...
Yeah.
No, I was gonna say about sugar cookie. We bought coffee creamer that's sugar cookie.
Yeah.
And it's got like, it's a green bottle. It's not. Is it International Delight?
Yeah.
I can't remember. It's one of those brands, and it's I guess it's Home Alone branded, so it's got Macaulay Culkin on the front doing that. But that is some delicious creamer. It tastes exactly
like a sugar
cookie.
Yeah.
It's so good.
You're making me hungry. It's time for us to go down and get us a sandwich.
Oh, we're gonna we
need to go to fucking.
We're gonna have
Circle
to go to Circle K and get a sandwich.
Subway sandwich. Yeah.
Oh my god. Tammy says my husband is 57 and still has good hair.
He's lucky.
Yeah, like I said, I kind of feel like most guys like start losing their hair, but
yeah. By the time my fucking mid 40s came around, my hair was getting kind of weak, and then like just started to thin out a little bit up here. But then I started fucking working out and fucking doing fucking testosterone, and I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna shave this shit off. And I like it like this now. It's just so, because I used to do this in the military too.
It's just like so low maintenance.
It's real low maintenance.
I wish I looked good bald.
Yeah.
I hate having to take care
I've
of
been
my hair.
bald
It's a
many
pain.
times. I was did it in the service. The thing is, you don't want to be bald and fat. If you're bald and jacked, it's a lot better.
Yeah, then you just
Lot
look like
better.
a scary bouncer dude.
Yeah.
Now that I'm thinking about it, my dad, who is in his 70s, has a full head of hair.
Does he?
I mean, it's gray now,
Yeah.
obviously. It used to be black, but...
Full head of hair, yeah.
Yeah, he never... It's, as far as I... No, he never lost his hair.
Got
It didn't thin.
Good hair genetics.
We all have super thick hair. My hair is like super thick. All right, so we are going to wrap it up for the evening and go down to make our trek down to Circle K and get some sandwiches, because I think the Subway is still open. So we're going to go down there and get some sandwiches because I'm kind of hungry now that we're talking about all these cookies and everything like that. Maybe we'll get them cookies. They got good donuts in there, actually. But yeah, so thank you everybody for dropping by this evening. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the show. It was a good discussion. Like I said, this is kind of a fascinating case. I was always kind of interested in this, so it was kind of cool to do a deep dive on it. So hopefully you guys have a good day tomorrow, and that you'll be able to come back on Friday night for our sidetrack shows. You can drink with us and just talk about whatever bullshit crosses our minds, which is always super fun. So hopefully we'll see you guys again then, and good night.